I never thought walking home in the rain would change my life. I was drenched, heartbroken, and tired of fighting for a life that never seemed to love me back. Then a sleek black car slowed down, the window rolled down, and a billionaire whispered, "Get in, I won't let you go." Before I tell you what happened that night, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and hit the notification bell. This story is full of unexpected twists, heartbreak, and second chances. You don't want to miss a single moment. Now, let me take you back to that rainy night. The rain had been falling for hours, but I kept walking. My umbrella had broken 2 days before, and honestly, I didn't even have the strength or the money to replace it. The water clung to my clothes until they were heavy, my shoes squished with every step, and the cold cut through me like the night itself was punishing me for existing. The streets were nearly empty, except for the occasional car rushing past, spraying more dirty water onto the sidewalk. I felt invisible, like I didn't matter in a city that was too big, too fast, and too indifferent to care about one more tired black woman walking alone in the rain. I wasn't just fighting the storm in the sky, I was fighting the storm inside me. My life had been unraveling piece by piece. My job barely covered rent, let alone groceries. I had maxed out my credit card just to keep the lights on, and still, the bills stacked up like an army against me. On top of that, the man I thought I'd spend forever with had walked out of my life months earlier, leaving nothing but betrayal and unanswered questions in his wake. I carried all of that with me that night, step after step, like a weight I couldn't set down. The rain made it worse. Every drop seemed to echo my thoughts, cold, heavy, relentless. I wanted to cry, but tears felt useless when the sky was already pouring enough for both of us. I asked myself over and over, what's the point? Why keep fighting for a life that never seemed to give back? Why keep believing when every dream I touched slipped away before it became real? The truth was, I felt like giving up, not just on love, not just on my career, but on everything. And then it happened. Through the sheets of rain, headlights cut across the darkness. A car slowed down as it approached me, moving against the rhythm of the rest of the world. At first, I thought it was just another driver taking pity, maybe checking if I needed help. But when I saw it more clearly, I froze. It wasn't just a car. It was a machine that seemed to glow under the storm. Sleek, black, polished like liquid glass. Even through the downpour, I could tell this was no ordinary vehicle. It belonged to a world I had only ever seen from afar. A world with money, power, and privilege. The car rolled to a stop beside me, the hum of its engine softer than the roar of rain. The tinted window lowered slowly, like something out of a movie, and for the first time that night, my heart skipped for a reason other than despair. Behind the glass was a man. His face was shadowed at first, but then the streetlight caught him. His presence didn't just command attention, it demanded it. Strong jawline, eyes that looked both sharp and strangely gentle, the kind of face that told you he'd never had to beg the world for anything. And me? I stood there dripping, small, worn out, staring at a stranger who didn't belong in my universe. My instinct told me to keep walking, to ignore him, to protect myself. But something in the way he looked at me, not with pity, not with judgment, but with a kind of certainty, made my breath catch. In that moment, the storm didn't feel as loud. The city didn't feel as cruel. I didn't know who he was yet. I didn't know that this night would change my life. All I knew was that a black car had appeared on a rainy street, and inside it sat a man who looked at me like I wasn't invisible. Like maybe, just maybe, I was someone worth stopping for. The window rolled down, and I heard his voice for the first time. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the rain like it belonged there, like it was meant to reach me. Get in, he said, calm but firm. His tone carried no impatience, no arrogance, just certainty, as though he already knew I'd listen. I froze, my heart beating faster than my footsteps ever had that night. Who did he think he was, asking a stranger to climb into his car? I wasn't naive. I knew the world wasn't always kind to women like me. I had learned to be cautious, to guard myself. So, I shook my head, water dripping from my hair into my eyes. No, I'm fine, I replied, though everything about me screamed that I wasn't. He leaned closer, and for a moment I could see his face more clearly. There was no smirk, no slyness, just an intensity that made it hard to look away. You're not fine, he said quietly, almost like he was stating a fact instead of an opinion. You're cold, you're soaked, and you're out here alone. Please get in. I won't hurt you. Those words, I won't hurt you, lingered in the air. People had promised me safety before, people I trusted, and still, I had ended up broken. So why did this stranger's words feel different? Why did his voice make me want to believe him? I hesitated, gripping the strap of my worn bag as if it could protect me. Pride and fear wrestled inside me. I didn't want to look desperate, didn't want to look like someone who needed saving. But my body was trembling, and the storm was unrelenting. Deep down, I knew I couldn't walk much farther. He must have sensed my hesitation because his tone softened. I don't know your story, he admitted, but I know enough to see you deserve better than this night is giving you. Let me help. Something in me cracked then. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe loneliness, or maybe it was the way he spoke, as if I wasn't a burden, but a human being who mattered. Slowly, with a cautious step, I moved closer to the car. The warmth from inside spilled out as the door opened, contrasting sharply with the biting cold of the rain. Sliding into the seat felt like stepping into another world. The leather was soft, the air warm, and the faint scent of cedar and something expensive filled my lungs. I kept my eyes down, embarrassed by the way my wet clothes dampened the pristine seat. Thank you, I murmured, my voice barely audible. He didn't respond right away. Instead, he studied me for a moment, his gaze steady but not invasive. Then he nodded, almost to himself, before speaking. You're welcome. I couldn't just leave you there. And in that small exchange, something shifted. I didn't trust him completely, not yet, but I felt the walls I had built so carefully begin to crack. For the first time in a long while, someone had noticed me, not to use me, not to judge me, but to simply see me. The car moved smoothly through the rain, the sound of the storm fading as we glided past the blurred city lights. For the first time all evening, I wasn't shivering. The heater hummed softly, warming my soaked skin, but it was more than just the car that felt different. It was the silence between us. It wasn't awkward. It was charged, like both of us were waiting to see who would speak first. He broke the silence. So, he said gently, his eyes on the road, where were you coming from? I hesitated. The truth was ugly. A long shift at a job that drained me, a paycheck that barely kept me afloat, and a walk home because bus fare felt like a luxury I couldn't always spare. But something about him, the calm, patient way he asked, made me answer honestly. Work, I said. I was just walking home. Walking in this storm? He asked, glancing at me quickly before returning his focus to the street. His tone wasn't mocking, it was disbelief, laced with concern. I nodded, pressing my lips together. Couldn't exactly afford a ride? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Shame rose in my chest like heat, and I quickly looked away, embarrassed at my own admission. But instead of pity, he gave me something I wasn't used to. Silence. a silence that felt like understanding. He didn't fill it with platitudes or hollow promises. He just let it be. Finally, he said softly, "You're stronger than you realize. You know that?" The compliment caught me off guard. I almost laughed, but my voice cracked when I spoke. "Strong doesn't pay the bills." He glanced at me again, and this time his gaze lingered a little longer. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes held something I hadn't felt in a long time: respect. He wasn't judging me for struggling. He wasn't dismissing me. He was listening. And in that moment, as the rain streaked down the windows and the city blurred past, I realized this ride was more than a lift home. It was the beginning of something I couldn't quite name yet, a shift, small but undeniable, pulling me into a world I didn't belong to, but one that had suddenly opened its door to me. When the car finally slowed, I realized he wasn't taking me straight home. Instead, he pulled into the entrance of a quiet hotel with golden lights spilling out into the rain. The doorman hurried forward with an umbrella, bowing slightly as he opened the door. I froze, caught between wanting to protest and being too overwhelmed to speak. This wasn't the kind of place I belonged. "Come on," he said gently, as though reading my hesitation. "Just for a moment. You need to dry off, warm up." His tone was steady, not commanding but reassuring, and somehow I found myself following him inside. The lobby felt like stepping into another universe. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers, and the scent of polished wood and fresh flowers filled the air. My wet sneakers squeaked with every step, and I wanted to disappear. People in tailored suits and elegant dresses moved with practiced grace, barely sparing me a glance. But when they did, their eyes flicked to him, and instantly their posture shifted. They nodded, smiled, greeted him with a respect that bordered on reverence. It hit me then. Whoever this man was, he wasn't ordinary. He carried an invisible power that bent the room without him having to say a word. I walked beside him, dripping and awkward, and couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't fit into this picture at all. He led me to a quiet corner of the hotel lounge where a fire glowed softly in the hearth. A server appeared almost immediately, addressing him by name, which only deepened my confusion. He ordered tea for me without asking, his voice calm but decisive, and then leaned back in his chair as if he lived in this world of velvet seats and soft lighting. "You're used to this," I said quietly, unable to hide the disbelief in my voice. He smiled faintly, almost wistfully. "Used to it, yes, but sometimes I wish I wasn't." That caught me off guard. I frowned, studying him for the first time, instead of avoiding his gaze. "Why would anyone wish not to?" His eyes softened, but there was something weary behind them. "Because when you have money, when you have this," he gestured around the room, "people stop seeing you. They see what you can give, what you can buy, what you can fix, but they don't see the man behind it." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Here I was, worrying about whether I could afford bus fare, and sitting across from me was a man with wealth most people couldn't dream of. And yet, he was telling me he felt invisible in his own way. That was the first time I realized something. Maybe we weren't so different after all. The tea arrived, steaming and fragrant, and as I wrapped my hands around the warm cup, I caught him watching me, not in judgment, not in pity, but with a kind of focus that made me feel seen, really seen. And in that instant, I understood. I had stumbled by accident into his world, and somehow he had opened the door wide enough for me to step inside. As the warmth from the tea settled into me, he leaned forward slightly, his voice lower, softer. "Let me help you," he said, almost like it was the most natural thing in the world. I blinked at him, startled. "Help me? With what?" "With whatever you need." he replied calmly. A ride home, a safe place to rest, even a job if that's what you're searching for. His eyes stayed steady on mine, unflinching, as if he truly meant it. A wave of heat rose to my cheeks, and not from the tea. Part of me wanted to cry, because those were exactly the things I needed. But another part of me bristled. I had spent too long fighting to hold on to what little dignity I had left. I wasn't going to become someone's charity case. I don't need your money, I said quickly, my voice sharper than I intended. I set the teacup down with trembling fingers. I don't want pity. His brows lifted slightly, but there was no offense in his expression, only curiosity. Pity? He repeated, almost to himself. Then he shook his head. Number, that's not what this is? Then what is it? I asked, my chest tightening. He leaned back, exhaling as though searching for the right words. Finally, he said, it's respect. You remind me of something I lost a long time ago. Someone real. Someone who doesn't want me for what I have. The silence that followed was thick. I didn't know how to respond. My pride wanted me to walk away, to push him out before he had the chance to hurt me. But a softer part of me, the tired, lonely part, recognized sincerity in his tone. When I finally met his gaze, he said something that made my heart stumble. I don't know why, but I can't let you just walk away tonight. Not after this, not after meeting you. He paused, his voice steady, unshaken by the storm still raging outside. I won't let you go. The words hung in the air, both terrifying and comforting at once. I didn't trust him yet, but for the first time in years, I wanted to. After that night, I thought I'd never hear from him again. Men like him didn't circle back to women like me, or at least that's what I believed. But I was wrong. The very next day, a message came. Simple, direct. Did you get home safe? I stared at the screen longer than I should have, debating whether to answer. Something inside me warned it would be safer to leave it alone. But my fingers moved anyway, almost against my will. Yes, thank you. That was the start of something I hadn't expected. He didn't flood me with calls or overwhelming attention. Instead, he reached out in small, careful ways. A quick check-in during lunch, a goodnight text when the city grew quiet. Each message felt like a thread, pulling me closer without force, weaving into the cracks of my lonely days. When we did meet again, it was never extravagant. A walk in the park, coffee at a quiet corner cafe, little things that made me forget, for a while, the gap between our worlds. He listened more than he spoke, asked questions that weren't shallow, and remembered the smallest details about me. No one had done that in years. Still, I kept my guard up. I reminded myself constantly, he was a billionaire. His life was polished and gilded, while mine was messy and frayed. But then there were moments, like when he carried an umbrella for both of us and let the rain soak his own shoulder just so I would stay dry. That made me doubt my own caution. With each passing day, I felt the walls around me tremble. I didn't want to need him, but slowly, I found myself wanting him there. And though I tried to deny it, every time his name lit up my phone, my heart raced in a way I thought I'd forgotten how to feel. It was bound to happen, I suppose. The moment when the weight of our differences crashed into us. For weeks, we had been moving in this fragile balance, a rhythm that felt almost too good to be real. But reality doesn't stay hidden forever. It started with something small. He invited me to a dinner, one of those events where everyone wore clothes that looked like they belonged in magazines, where laughter was polished, and conversations danced around deals and power. I almost said no, but part of me wanted to see his world, to understand it. I regretted it the moment I stepped into the room. Eyes turned, whispers followed. I felt them before I heard them, sharp, slicing through me. My dress wasn't expensive enough. My shoes weren't subtle enough, and most of all, I wasn't enough. He stood beside me, steady, his hand at the small of my back, guiding me through the crowd as if I belonged there. But their stares burned into me. Every polite smile felt like pity wrapped in silk. I kept my chin high, pretending not to care, but inside, my chest ached. Later, when we were alone, the words burst out of me like a dam breaking. I can't do this. I don't belong in your world. I'll never belong. He turned to me, surprised, his brow furrowing. Why would you say that? Because it's true, I snapped, my voice trembling. Look at me. Look at you. We're from two different planets. You have everything, money, power, respect. And me? I'm just the girl who was walking home in the rain because she couldn't afford a ride. My throat tightened as the tears finally spilled. And no matter what you say, they'll never let me forget it. For a long moment, he was silent. I thought he'd argue, try to convince me otherwise, but when he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost pained. You think I care about them? About what they say? He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. The only thing I care about is you, and you're the only one who doesn't see what I see. I shook my head, wiping at my cheeks, but his words cut deep. What do you see then? I whispered. He didn't hesitate. I see the woman who walked alone in the rain and still had enough strength to say no when she didn't trust me. I see the woman who works until her feet ache but still finds a way to smile. I see someone real, someone brave, someone I can't stop thinking about. His voice cracked slightly on that last line, and it startled me. He meant it. He wasn't performing, wasn't saying what he thought I wanted to hear. He was laying himself bare, and for the first time, I realized the breaking point wasn't about whether I belonged in his world. It was about whether I could allow myself to believe I deserved to be in his life. That night, after his words, I couldn't sleep. They echoed in my head, looping over and over, breaking through the walls I had built around myself. I see someone real, someone brave. No one had ever said those things to me before, not, and meant them. The next morning, I almost didn't answer his call. Fear still clung to me, whispering that I should pull away before it was too late. But when I heard his voice on the other end, steady and patient, I felt my guard loosen just a little. We met again, not in a gilded hall or behind velvet ropes, but on a park bench beneath the soft gray sky. It felt like neutral ground, a place where our differences didn't matter. He handed me a coffee just the way I liked it, and for a long while we just sat in silence, watching the world pass by. Finally, I spoke. My voice was quiet, almost fragile. I'm scared, I admitted. Scared of being hurt. Scared of being left behind when all of this feels too heavy. He didn't try to dismiss my fear. He didn't laugh or tell me I was overthinking. Instead, he nodded, like he understood every word. Then let me carry some of it with you, he said simply. And it was that simplicity that broke me. Not grand promises, not wealth or power, just the offer to share the weight I had been dragging alone for so long. I turned to him, really looking at him, and in that moment, I realized something had shifted. This wasn't about worlds colliding anymore. It was about two people, flawed, scarred, different, meeting in the middle and choosing not to let go. The turning point wasn't loud or dramatic. It wasn't the kind of thing people write headlines about. It was quiet, almost ordinary. A cup of coffee, a shared silence, a single promise. But to me, it was everything. Because for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking alone in the rain anymore. And that's how a rainy night changed my life forever. If you enjoyed my story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Share this with someone who still believes in love, because sometimes the right person shows up when you least expect it.